It's June 2nd, 2026, and if you haven't spontaneously combusted yet, I'm not entirely sure how, because both Pride Month is over, and it's a sin to be gay, but also we're in the middle of a heat dome. It's too hot to care about the hair. So hi, welcome to another video. Here's the thing. The whitehouse.gov website likes to use certain language about trans people, and I'm not about it. In fact, I think there's a bit of TDS going on. The actual TDS that exists in America, the trans derangement syndrome. Now, here's the thing. This is the official whitehouse.gov website, everyone. Ba-bam! Supreme Court bolsters President Trump's push to eliminate transgender insanity. Their words, not mine. Now, this isn't the Supreme Court's words either, mind you, but this is the language on the official White House website. Now, you could say, hey, that's just like a little clippy thing. That's not the actual website, though. Well, let's go to the actual website, though. So here we go. Wow, we're there. Look at that. The actual website, link and all, you know? Look at this guy pointing. Welcome to the golden age. Get off my screen. So here's the thing. There's some language in here that's not so nice. It's about everything that we covered yesterday or the other day. But here's the thing. Like, what happens to the trans men, right? What happens to the trans men? And that's state by state. It's going to be implemented. We didn't talk about this exactly before. That, like, it's going to be something that, like, hey, trans men are still able to compete in women's sports. You literally did the thing you said you weren't going to do. You put guys in women's sports. You actually put guys in women's sports. But, you know, okay. Anyway, let's talk about this for a second. Barring men from competing in women's sports. No, well, actually, resulting in athletic organizations such as the NCAA, International Olympic Committee, and World Athletics Council realigning their policies with biological reality. And by the way, did anybody actually care about women's sports before trans people? I remember, like, listening to people that were sports betting, and they'd talk about, like, female sports, and then they'd start laughing. Like, anyway, I don't know. It's just food for thought. We're just talking here. We're brainstorming. We're just, it's a lot of nice language. Restoring biological sex as sole markers of official federal documents, including passports. You know, it's been like a lot of fun stuff. Just fun stuff. I'll let you read it. Go to the website yourself, you know? Eliminating radical gender ideology from U.S. service academies and training programs. Yeah, you did it. Like, some of the most gifted people in, like, the United States Army, and, like, some of these people that I have on, like, my group that I've associated with are very well decorated and bright individuals. So, you know, congratulations, you got rid of the best and brightest. I mean, like I said, we excel in what we do. We literally excel in what we do. But anyway, I did want to say, too, at the bottom of the page, related articles. President Trump ended Democrats' transgender for everybody insanity in March 31st. I didn't even see this one. I'm glad I didn't. I was still too recovering to... yeah, it's just more fun stuff. But this is what I specifically remember at the beginning of the year, and this was what made me go like, oh, hey, they didn't run on this. Defending women from gender ideology, extremism, and restoring biological truth to the federal government. When that came out, when that became a thing, right, that was like, oh, okay, we probably have something big coming. We probably have a lot of, like, bad stuff coming. And, like, I was, you know, just recovering from an injury, and, like, I was still, like, in shape. Like, I look back up to, like, 6 months into last year, and then, like, I started gaining weight a lot. I got gray hairs for a minute there for varying reasons, and I'm sure stress had a lot to do with it. There are very real impacts to what's happening here. So, like, this is the thing here, right? We have the official White House website saying things like this again, right? And there's a very real TDS issue in America. And let's talk about the real one: trans derangement syndrome, spreading misinformation, scapegoating us, etc. We're going to go in rapid fire succession of what I've covered on this channel, since I felt like it was absolutely necessary for me to begin covering things on this channel out of fear, out of actual fear that, like, hey, if we don't, like, talk about about this stuff. Maybe one day only the rich are going to transition as like a hobby on the side because they have enough money and time to do this, and it's outlawed otherwise. The people that are actually trans aren't going to have access to medication, aren't going to have access to care soon. And that was my concern at that moment. So I then see how like everything's playing out, and I feel like we might as well go over a little review since some of my older videos haven't had a lot of views, right? So we're just going to go over these things real kind of quick, just talk about it real quick. And yeah, well, just formulate your own opinions, because this was right after the Charlie Kirk incident. Let me remind you, this was a trans person that murdered, or T-slur or T-slur enthusiast. It was Nancy Mace's words. Love you, Nancy. And it's just been this whole thing, right? We have Laura Loomer that was out saying, now I understand Islamic countries don't tolerate. I found common ground with Muslims today. We have Joey Manarino saying, if a person who killed Charlie Kirk was transgender, if I could talk, transgender, there can be no mercy for that species any longer. We've already tolerated too much from those creatures. These are like, you know, the potential politicians and lawmakers, you know, like the people in our country that are supposed to be, hi Nancy, transgenderism is terrorism. Transgenderism is a death cult, the largest, most well-funded and deranged death cult that this country's ever seen. Elon Musk. The truth is so awful that they murder to keep the lie. That seems like something that, like, you know, I'm just saying, like, maybe like somebody that I know on ketamine would have written a tweet of, you know, I'm just wondering. I don't know. Anyway, another one that was really funny. Donald Trump Jr., trans people are more dangerous than Al-Qaeda. You remember whenever we invaded Iran recently? You remember when we invaded Iran after, like, they were ready to sign a peace deal, and then it cost us over $1 billion a day, but we were finding out it was like something more like $3.4 billion a day, and then we gave them $80 billion and a $300 billion promise in reparations for the damages that we caused for a war that we didn't have to start and that we lost, and now there's an issue with the Strait of Hormuz, and people still don't understand the impact that, hey, one day I may not have gas in the future, and it, you know, in a post-apocalyptic world where you're setting up trans people to be, like, you know, scapegoated, it's just really fun. Anyway, do you remember this one? Do you remember this one? Whenever the SNAP benefits, and they were blocking the SNAP benefits, and they had the money for it, they had like this extra money. There is no money for it, but they have money to like go to war, like, right? Isn't it funny? Isn't it an interesting, kooky kind of time? Bottom line, the well has run dry. At this time, there will be no benefits issued November 1st. We are approaching the inflection point of the Senate Democrats. They can continue to hold on to health care for illegal aliens and gender mutilation procedures, or reopen the government so mothers, babies, and the most vulnerable among us can receive critical nutrition assistance. Do you remember that? Do you remember that? I remember that. I'm an elephant. I never forget. And this is what the trans community has internalized, you know? This is how it's been. Do you remember this one? Do you remember the Heritage Foundation, whenever they came up with the rules that they were going to like classify trans people as terrorists in the FBI? This was before the NSPM7 thing, by the way. So do you remember this one? Do you remember this one? Do you remember this one? I made a video about this, talking about this. Do you remember, like, you know, April 2025, GOP office firebombed by lipstick-wearing suspect. Trans, they have to be trans. Like, I mean, you know, what are we talking about here? And then, oh, like the flag, you can tell that they're, you know, like, this is how you know that they're operating out of the, or whatever, like this insanity, right? Then we find out, like, oh, hey, like the whole cover up with the files, and then we have the whole freaking thing with the Pam Bondi and the Dows, you know, and like they were really doing their job great, and we got the Kash Patel doing all the good stuff too. And so there's this document saying, you know, everything about trans people, you know, it's just a really scary time. Anyway, do you remember this one? Do you remember this one that wasn't so long ago? It was the NSPM7 that I haven't stopped quoting because it's like the same thing that I've said, that Muslim Americans after 9/11, you know, targeting them the same way that you would, you know, now you're doing that to trans people. You're able to listen to the conversations. I'm probably on some sort of list for having a YouTube channel. It's fine. We have this. Radically pro-transgender, we will find you and we will kill you. Signed, Donald J. Trump. I'm not allowed to talk about trans issues and being radically pro-transgender by talking about them. I'm not allowed to address these issues without it being an issue, right? I'm not allowed to address these issues without being labeled as like a certain thing. So like, what are you supposed to do? I feel like it's more important to address the issues than to remain silent, because silence is compliance at this point. And I'm not really vibing with these wording of like how you're interacting with this community. I think the way that you're handling things isn't so nice. But yeah, again, like, congratulations, you put men in women's sports. You literally put trans female to male men in women's sports in some states. So congratulations. Does anybody remember this? Does anybody remember when Vance was in college? Wasn't this college, right? Does anybody remember the Brian Nome thing? Like, we talked about that recently. The whole, the Christy Nome's husband. Does anybody remember this? This was, I believe, March 10th in the year 2000. If I'm quoting, it was somewhere around that. It was a benefit event in New York. If you haven't seen this, here you go.
You're really beautiful. And a woman that looks like that has to have her own special scent.
Oh, thank you. Maybe you could tell me what you think of this scent.
I like that.
This may be the best of all. Oh, you dirty boy, you. Oh. Donald, I thought you were a gentleman.
You can't say I didn't try.
Fun stuff, right? It's a fun timeline. You get to indulge in the culture. You literally get to like put your foot into the LGBT community and then be like, hey, you know what? I'm going to take a step back. But you know what? Instead of like even like, I don't know. What is it exactly? I think more people should be aware of like that happening. I think it's just kind of funny that everything's playing out like it is. And we have all of these people in power that are doing like all sorts of like odd behaviors that resemble somewhat of like this community, but not necessarily like, hey, how everyone in this community is. And so like they're trying to cancel this community because they have like some sort of like internalized something or other along with it. I would think so, because it seems to pop up like a little bit too much. I don't know. I can't say for sure. I know that like, most of the guys that like I see on like Grindr, like there's a guy that harasses me specifically and they're like, oh, I thought you were my ex, but they send me a lot of crazy stuff. So I can kind of see this like playing out in the same direction, Anyway, I was just, a little bit of food for thought. It's a scorcher out there. It's a freaking scorcher. And I just thought maybe I'd bring some attention to this. And, thank you for your attention in this matter. Yeah. Like, is that what you want? Like, is that what you want from me? Do you want me to just be like, do you want me to be like that?